Norwegian Cruise Line should be winning right now. They have some of the newest ships in the industry, they have one of the most talked about suite experiences at sea, and they've invested billions of dollars into new ships, new destinations, and new onboard experiences. And yet, ever since cruising restarted following COVID, something hasn't felt quite right. Their newest ships have become surprisingly divisive. Longtime fans are frustrated by changes that never seemed necessary, and many cruisers can't even agree on what Norwegian Cruise Line is supposed to be anymore. So what happened, and why does a cruise line that has spent billions of dollars on new ships and new experiences still leave so many guests feeling frustrated? I've thought a lot about that lately, and the more I think about it, the more I've become convinced that all of these seemingly unrelated problems point back to a single issue. So let's get into it. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Now, before we go any further, I want to be clear about something. This video isn't a response to a bad experience I had in Norwegian Cruise Line. In fact, while my recent Norwegian cruises haven't been perfect, they've generally been pretty good, because there are things that Norwegian does very well. But there are also real signs that the cruise line is struggling. Since the cruise industry emerged from the pandemic, Royal Caribbean's stock has increased by more than 1,300% from its pandemic low, and Carnival stock has climbed nearly 400%. But Norwegian stock, meanwhile, hasn't even doubled. And while stock prices don't tell the whole story, they do tell us something important. Investors believe Royal Caribbean and Carnival have largely figured out how to create value in the post-pandemic cruise industry. But many aren't convinced Norwegian has. In fact, things have become concerning enough that Elliott Investment Management, which is an activist investor known for pushing companies to make major changes, recently acquired a significant stake in the company because they believe Norwegian can be worth far more than it is today. Now, this isn't a business analysis video, and I don't think the answer is buried in the spreadsheet. In fact, I think the more interesting question is why. Because when you start looking beyond the stock price and start paying attention to the actual guest experience, a pattern starts to emerge. Entertainment has been scaled back. The new Prima class ships have become surprisingly divisive, and guests continue to complain about crowding, confusing pricing, and a cruise experience that many believe isn't as strong as it once was. And at first glance, those might seem like completely separate issues, but I don't think they are. Because the more I've thought about it, the more I've become convinced that they all point back to the same underlying problem. Norwegian Cruise Line no longer has a clear brand identity. When a company loses sight of what made it special in the first place, those problems tend to show up everywhere. One of the clearest examples of this is entertainment. There was a time when entertainment was one of the reasons people booked Norwegian Cruise Line. Shows like Kinky Boots, Six, and Jersey Boys gave Norwegian something that genuinely stood out in the industry. And whether you personally loved Broadway-style productions or not, they helped create a clear identity. Entertainment wasn't just something Norwegian offered, it was something Norwegian was known for. But today, that's no longer the case. Now, part of that is because Norwegian has moved away from Broadway productions and toward shorter in-house shows. And to be fair, Norwegian has said their research shows many guests don't want to sit through a 2-hour Broadway production anymore. And honestly, there may be some truth to that, but I don't think that means entertainment should become less memorable. Because what made those shows successful wasn't the length, it was the storytelling. They gave people characters to care about, they created tension, and they gave guests a reason to become invested in what was happening on stage. And when the show was over, people didn't just remember the songs or the costumes, they remembered how the story made them feel. And at the same time, Norwegian has made things more difficult on itself by building theaters that are significantly smaller than you'll find on many competing ships. Theaters on modern Norwegian ships typically seat roughly 700-800 guests compared to theaters on similarly sized ships on other cruise lines that hold 12 to 1,300. Now, that may not sound important, but it has a huge impact on the entertainment program because Norwegian has to repeat their shows multiple nights so everyone has a chance to see them, which means there's less room in the schedule for additional productions. Now, Norwegian can't exactly go back and rebuild those theaters, but they can decide what role entertainment should play in the future of the brand. If I were Norwegian, I would stop trying to replace Broadway with bigger screens, more technology, or more special effects. Instead, I would focus on creating shorter productions that still tell compelling stories and leave guests walking away saying, wow, That was incredible because entertainment used to be one of the reasons people chose Norwegian, but today I think it's become just another item on the daily schedule. And that's a perfect example of what happens when a company loses sight of what made it special in the first place. Another example of this identity problem is their Free at Sea program. Or maybe I should call that More at Sea, or maybe I should call it Free at Sea again, because over the last few years, Norwegian has changed the name, changed the messaging, and changed the position of this package so many times that I'm not entirely convinced that they even know what they want it to be anymore. And that's a problem because this isn't just some small add-on. This is one of the most important parts of how Norwegian sells its cruises. And the strange thing is that despite the name, it isn't actually free. On a 7-night cruise for 2 people, once you factor in the drink package gratuities and the specialty dining gratuities, it costs more than $500 for a package that's marketed as being free, and it doesn't even include bottled water. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying it's a bad value because in many cases it can still save people money. But calling something free when it costs hundreds of dollars creates confusion before the cruise even begins. And when Norwegian changed the name to More at Sea, I actually thought they might finally be moving in the right direction. Now, the name wasn't perfect, but at least it didn't pretend the package was free. But then they changed it back. And that's where I think the bigger issue starts to show itself. Because a cruise line with a strong identity is very clear about what it stands for. Norwegian, on the other hand, often feels like it's constantly experimenting with its own identity. Free at Sea becomes More at Sea. More at Sea becomes Free at Sea. A dinner dress code gets introduced, guests push back, and the dress code gets rolled back again. And while each of those decisions may seem small on its own, together they create the impression that Norwegian is still trying to figure out exactly who it wants to be. So if I were Norwegian, I would stop trying to reinvent this package every couple of years and start focusing on transparency instead. Call it what it is, explain exactly what's included, explain exactly what isn't, and make sure the package reflects the brand you're trying to build. Because right now, I don't think the biggest problem is the package itself. I think it's that the package has become another example of a cruise line that no longer seems entirely sure what it wants to be. Another place where I see this identity problem show up is in the Haven. And this one is especially frustrating because the Haven is actually a really good product. I've stayed in the Haven several times and there are a lot of things Norwegian gets right there. The dedicated spaces are great. The service is excellent, and in many ways, it delivers exactly the kind of elevated experience people are looking for when they're spending that kind of money. But then there are other parts of the experience that make me wonder whether Norwegian has actually decided what the Haven is supposed to be. Because if you're charging people 3 to 5 times more to stay in the Haven than a typical balcony cabin, then you should make sure the full experience delivers on that premium brand that you're promising them and that people are paying handsomely for. Because when you charge somebody $1,500 a night and then tell them Wi-Fi is extra and, oh yeah, the Haven restaurant has the same exact menu every night at the sailing, well, that really doesn't align with the premium brand you're trying to sell people on. And add in other noticeable absences like access to the thermal spa, and it really makes you question whether Norwegian actually believes the Haven is truly a luxury experience. Because the nickel and diamond you see across the rest of the ship should stop the moment you step into the Haven. Now, those may sound like small things individually, but together they create a bigger question. Is the Haven supposed to be a premium experience, or is it a mainstream cruise product with a few extra perks attached to it? Because right now, it feels like Norwegian is trying to sell you one thing and then delivering a totally different product. And that's where I think the identity problem shows up again. So if I were Norwegian, I'd make a decision. If the Haven is meant to be a premium experience, then make it feel complete. Include the Wi-Fi, include the thermal suite, improve the dining experience, and charge a little more if you have to, but I genuinely think most Haven guests would rather pay for a complete premium experience than feel like they're still being nickel and dimed after they've spent thousands of dollars upgrading. And that's what makes this so frustrating. The Haven is a great experience, but it shouldn't feel incomplete. I just don't think Norwegian has fully committed to what it wants the Haven to be, which is a theme we really see across all areas of the ship. I think another example of this identity problem shows up in the way Norwegian designs its ships. For years, Norwegian has tried to compete with larger ships by offering many of the same experiences, with more specialty restaurants, more entertainment venues, and more places for guests to spend their time. And on paper, that sounds great. But the problem is that Norwegian ships are often smaller than the ships they're trying to compete with, and as a result, many of those venues end up vastly undersized. Take Sid Norman's, for example. It's one of the most popular venues on the ship, but it's also one of the hardest places to get into Guests often find themselves showing up an hour early just for the chance to possibly get a seat, an obvious sign that there's more demand than the available capacity because the venue simply isn't big enough. And it's not just Sid Norman's. You see it in the entertainment venues, the public spaces, up on the pool deck, and even in the kids' clubs. On some sailings, Norwegian can have well over 1,000 children on board, yet their kids' clubs on the premium class ships have a max capacity of only 110, which means you have nearly 1,000 kids who otherwise would be participating in organized activities that are instead spread throughout the rest of the ship. And if you're sitting there thinking, Evan, I don't have young kids, so that really doesn't impact me. Well, it does. It impacts all of us because those kids don't simply disappear. Instead, they end up at the only pool deck you have on the ship and in the observation lounges and in public spaces throughout the ship because there isn't enough dedicated capacity for them to have a space of their own. Now, Norwegian can't exactly go back and magically make every venue bigger or add an additional pool on ships that are already built, but there are things they can do to improve the experience. They can add capacity to kids' clubs during dry docks, and popular venues like Sid Norman's need a better system for handling demand. And if that means ticketing shows or offering additional performances throughout the evening, then that's exactly what I do. But don't make guests show up an hour early for performances or stand at the back of the room hoping you can see over enough heads to get a glimpse of the band. And more importantly, future ships need to stop prioritizing the number of venues and start prioritizing the guest experience inside those venues. Because right now, it often feels like Norwegian is trying to fit a megaship experience onto a ship that wasn't designed to support it. And once again, I think it comes back to the same question. Who exactly is Norwegian building ships for? And I think you can even see this identity problem in Norwegian's marketing. Earlier this year, Norwegian started teasing a major announcement. They changed their logo, they released cryptic videos, and they launched a countdown campaign. And there was enough mystery around it that many people started wondering what Norwegian was about to unveil. Was it a new product, a new destination, a major change to the onboard experience? Well, as it turned out, it was a new marketing campaign built around the slogan, "It's different out here." And honestly, I don't think it's a bad slogan. In fact, I think it points directly to what Norwegian should be. The campaign was built around freedom and flexibility, and it was a reminder that Norwegian helped pioneer freestyle cruising and built its reputation around giving guests more choice and fewer rules. But the strange thing is that after watching the campaign, I found myself asking the same question I've been asking throughout this entire video. If freedom and flexibility are still the foundation of the Norwegian brand, why do so many of the decisions we've talked about seem disconnected from that idea? Because a brand isn't just a slogan. A brand is the collection of decisions a company makes over time. When I look at entertainment, free at sea, the Haven, overcrowded venues, and some of the other decisions Norwegian has made over the last several years, I'm not always sure that those decisions are reinforcing that same message. Which is why I don't think Norwegian's biggest problem is any of those things. I think the bigger problem is that Norwegian knows what it wants to say about itself, but I'm not convinced it always knows how to live up to that message. And that's what makes all of this so frustrating. Because I don't think Norwegian has forgotten how to build good cruise ships. I don't think they've forgotten how to create great experiences. In fact, there are several areas where Norwegian is genuinely excellent. When I look at the Indulged Food Hall, I see one of the most creative dining concepts in the entire cruise industry. When I look at the waterfront on the Breakaway and Breakaway Plus class ships, I see what may be my favorite outdoor space on any class of cruise ships. When I look at the design of many of their ships, I see a cruise line that understands how to create spaces that feel modern, upscale, and premium. When I look at their solo cruise offerings, I see a cruise line that identified an underserved group of guests and built something specifically for them. And that's actually one area where their brand identity is actually clear. For solo cruisers, Norwegian is widely perceived as the best in the business. But the frustrating part is that those strengths never seem to come together into a clear identity. The solos are a great example of that because they finally built a brand around that, and now they're abandoning it for, well, more money. One of the things I've noticed is that Norwegian often feels like a cruise line that is trying to borrow the best ideas from everyone else. You walk through the lower public decks on their premium class ships and see an upscale design that is clearly drawing inspiration from celebrity. Then you go up top and see water slides, arcades, and attractions that feel like they're trying to compete with the Royal Caribbean as a family-friendly cruise line. And then you watch a very adult show like Lunatic on the brand new Luna, or even the design of the main theater and even their elevators on premium class ships, and it's obvious they were heavily inspired by what Virgin Voyages is doing. And none of those things are necessarily bad on their own. The problem is that when you keep borrowing bits and pieces from everybody else, it becomes harder and harder to explain what makes you different. And I think that's exactly what's happened to Norwegian. In fact, recently I asked my audience a simple question. When you think of Norwegian Cruise Line, what comes to mind? And I expected a pattern, something that would help me uncover what their brand identity was. But instead, the answers were all over the place. And I think that may be the biggest clue of all. Because if your most loyal customers can't agree on what makes your brand special, then maybe the problem isn't that the guests are confused, maybe the brand is. And that's why I don't think Norwegian needs another attraction. I don't think they need another restaurant, and I don't think they need another marketing campaign, because none of those things address the actual problem. The problem isn't that Norwegian lacks good ideas. We've already talked about several examples where they've executed really well. The problem is that all of those ideas often feel disconnected from one another. When Royal Caribbean launches a new ship, you know what you're getting. Massive ships, big entertainment, family-friendly experiences, and activities around every corner. Whether you personally like that approach or not, it's clear who they're building those ships for. And the same is true with Celebrity. People know anytime they book a cruise on Celebrity, the ship will be beautiful, the food will be great, and there will be a more refined atmosphere and a premium experience that feels like a step above the typical mainstream cruise line. And while Virgin Voyages is very different from those cruise lines, its brand identity is just as clear. It's adults only with tons of food options that are all included in the fare, and an experience that feels modern, unconventional, and a little edgy. Now, you may love it or hate it, but you know exactly what you're signing up for because Virgin isn't trying to be Royal Caribbean or Celebrity. And because they've stayed committed to who they are, they've built a very distinct brand and a very loyal following. And even newer brands have a clearer identity than Norwegian does. If someone books Margaritaville at Sea, they know to expect a laid-back cruise that doesn't take itself too seriously. But when Norwegian launches something new, I'm often left wondering how it fits into the bigger picture. Because sometimes Norwegian feels like it's chasing Royal Caribbean. Other times it feels like it's chasing Celebrity. And then there are moments where it's clearly taking inspiration from Virgin. And when you try to create an experience that's everything to everybody, you stop being known for anything at all. And once that happens, it becomes much harder to make decisions that consistently move the brand in the same direction. So until Norwegian finally decides to own who they are, I think many of the problems we've talked about today are going to keep showing up. And before I wrap this up, I want to say one more thing. If anyone from Norwegian happens to watch this video, please understand where this is coming from. I think you have a lot of talented people and some genuinely great ideas. And I think you have all the ingredients necessary to build an incredible product, which is why I made this video. Not because I wanted to complain or because I think Norwegian is a bad cruise line. I made it because I care about this industry, I care about the guest experience, and I genuinely want to see Norwegian succeed. Now, you may disagree with some of my concerns or my recommendations for how to remedy them, and that's completely fair. But I hope what comes through is that this wasn't intended to be a list of complaints. It was an attempt to identify what I believe is holding Norwegian back and to start a conversation about how the experience could become even better in the future. Because at the end of the day, I'm rooting for you. I want Norwegian to succeed. I want Norwegian to figure out exactly who it is. Because if that happens, I think the cruise line's best days are ahead of it. But here's the bad news. Figuring out who you are is a lot harder than fixing a few individual problems. But the good news, I recently spent a week aboard Norwegian's newest ship, the Luna, and put together a full review to give you a glimpse at where the cruise line may be headed next. So don't stop here, watch that video next and see for yourself where Norwegian is getting things right, where they're still falling short, and whether you think they're moving in the right direction. I'll see you over there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.